Want to discuss all of this much further here, so let's bring in Andrea Lewis, trial attorney who works with sexual abuse victims. She's also a former felony prosecutor. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so first off, the question I do want to ask, as we are hearing from the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, his victims there, we heard from some of them on Capitol Hill today. We've heard from a few of them in the past. And I did want to ask, what is it, aside from, let's say, the 33,000 pages that were released yesterday, what is it that they are looking to have released information-wise?
Well, to start, one thing would be an acknowledgement of that this occurred and that they were wronged and that the justice system did not handle the case appropriately from the onset. Now, most of us, you and I, know that that's the case, right? Anybody can see that plain as day. But what happens here is that this has gone on for such a long time. And all of these victims have been denied to a large extent and for years the ability to truly heal and to feel validated that people not only hear them, but that they believe them. And so that's one thing that they have really been robbed of for a long time. But not only that, and I think what the American people are so angry about is that there are still people out there walking the streets who participated in this, who were co-conspirators, and they are not behind bars. And people want that changed, and they want them held accountable.
As more information is released here, as we hear more about this, we get documents. How do investigators, folks who have that information, how do they go about protecting the victims' identities? We've heard about that from so many people. And again, on Capitol Hill, that was an issue that was mentioned today. So how exactly do they go about ensuring that the victims' identities do remain secret?
Well, I will tell you, that is not a mystery, and it's very simple. It's done every single day in courtrooms across America. And it is as simple as redacting names and identifying information to protect individuals. This is not brain surgery. To the extent that documents are still being withheld, I would submit that we should really be questioning whether it's the victims whoever is withholding these documents is intending to protect, as opposed to the perpetrators, because it is not difficult at all to protect the victims and just simply redact out their names or take out identifying information so that they are suitably protected. And here in this circumstance, you hear that there are people who have been victims of Jeffrey Epstein who are speaking out publicly and asking for these documents to come out. So, I mean, the information needs to be released, and there are many ways of protecting victims' identities, as is done every day in cases all throughout the United States.
One thing that I mentioned here leading into you is the fact that we heard from one of the victims earlier on today who had a lot to say. And the big thing that stood out to a lot of people is that she says if the DOJ does not release more information, then she and other victims could come together and create their very own client list. Legally speaking, what sort of issues could arise from doing that? Are there any issues with doing it?
So it's a really interesting question, and my answer there would be it depends. It depends on several things. So I'll think of I can give you several circumstances here. Number one, if any of these women have previously signed a settlement agreement of some sort or a confidentiality agreement, that may prohibit them from speaking out publicly or disclosing certain information. That said, for other people who may not not be a party to that such a document, of course, it would likely have no bearing on them whatsoever. So in theory, a group of women could collectively come together, develop a list, and certainly release it if that's what they chose to do. There would be other considerations too. Certainly, I can see a world where one or more of these men would threaten lawsuits, defamation, or other type of claims if such a list was released. Now, the interesting thing about that would be, in absolute defense to defamation or any type of defamatory claim or lawsuit, is whether the person is telling the truth. And if they are telling the truth and the assertions they're making against these individuals are in fact true, then they in theory should have absolutely nothing to fear. So there are a lot of considerations here, but that's certainly on the table.
My last question for you here is, you've obviously, talked and worked with a lot of sexual abuse victims there. You've heard about this case. So many people have heard about it. And I wanted to ask you what it is about this case that has so many people paying such close attention and even calling for the release of these documents and just wanting more information.
That is simple, and it's the long-standing lack of transparency and lack of accountability. You know, in America, we are premised on the notion that everybody is subject to the laws of this land, and everybody should be held accountable if they violate them. And in a circumstance like this, it is a slap in the face to law-abiding individuals and Americans all throughout this country, because the clear message that is being sent is that there are individuals in this country who are above the law and who do not appear to be in a position where they are going to be held accountable for egregious and horrific acts that they are alleged to have committed against innocent young children. And that has piqued the country's interest. And that is exactly why the transparency and accountability need to remain in the focus here, so that these individuals are brought to justice.
Andrea Lewis, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here and discuss all of this further. Anything else you want to add? Anything we missed here before I let you go?
No, I think that you and other people in the media are really doing the right thing by keeping this in the headlines and continuing to shine a light on this, because everyday Americans see what's going on and they want answers. And the victims and survivors of sexual abuse across this country deserve answers. The administration here has an opportunity to do the right thing, release the records, and hold the perpetrators accountable. And I certainly hope that happens. Thank you.
Andrea, thank you so much. We appreciate it as always.
Thank you.